Now, I want to keep moving here in our final full Indiana story, which Jennifer hinted at, and the IEDC, who we keep coming around to again and again on this show because it is just a big sloppy slush fund. So, again, Mike Braun talks a good game about, the regulation and transparency and doing things the right way. And so he began his administration by announcing that they were going to conduct a forensic audit on the IEDC, figure out, where the money's going. And so this is in April. He promised this audit after the Indiana Legislative Insight reported allegations of self-dealing and more among the IEDC and its partners. So in May, the state hires this expensive consulting firm for like $800,000 to conduct this audit. So changes announced after this release are that all votes must be taken by the IEDC's full board of directors instead of small committees. Okay. The agency's nonprofit arm, the Indiana Economic Development Foundation, will wind down. This shadowy foundation was placed on a spending freeze in April. It was created originally to raise private funds in support of the IEDC mission, but often declined to provide information on its donors and expenses. Finally, the new rule is that all investment activity must stay in Indiana. The IEDC board voted to allow Elevate Ventures, which was this angel venture capitalist investor firm that we talked about a few weeks ago here. The IEDC board allowed them to resume investment operations with the capital already loaned to the funds it manages on the state's behalf. Now, just last month, IEDC deemed Elevate to be in breach of lending languages in all of its loan agreements after defaulting on the angel investment program. And meanwhile, now, Wednesday, they're giving them a new loan for $5 million. So, IEDC, again, Braun, with his audit, talking a big game, talks transparency, talks cleaning up government, keeps doing the same shit. Now,
so Scott, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
The state of Indiana last year spent $500 and something million sending that money to private religious schools. And I know I talk a lot about this, but the thing that people don't understand is that money is 100% unregulated. That money goes to the school. You know, when they had the Supreme Court case back in 2013, Meredith versus Pence, they said, well, it's not illegal. It's not, it's not violating separation of church and state because the money goes to the parents. That's the way it worked then. The parents actually received a check. They took it into the school, signed it over to the school. Now they don't do that. That money goes directly to the school. Direct payment from the state to a religious-backed or a religious organization. So let me tell you what's happening with it in Fort Wayne. We did this study where we looked at 10 years before the voucher system started, and then the first 10 years of the voucher system, and we looked at building permits for the churches that own these schools. Now, each of them have separate addresses. There's a church address and a school address. The building permits are on the church addresses. Guess what happened? The 10 years before the voucher system, all you see is a couple $1 million altogether for all the churches that own schools. All right. After the voucher system, 10 years of the voucher system, the first 10, hundreds of millions of dollars spent by the churches, not the schools, the churches. And we all heard the story that happened where a priest stood in front of his congregation and said, there are a lot of you that send your kids to the school here. You need to apply for the vouchers because we need to get the steeple fixed. Okay.
Yeah, that's not
hundreds of millions of dollars pouring into churches all across the state of Indiana, completely unregulated. And what are they doing with it? Well, we assume It's to increase teacher pay, and it's to do, make sure kids have a great, safe environment to go to school, that they're providing special education services as needed, and all the other. No, you know what? That's not happening. Somebody's getting rich, and you want to guess who it is?
Yes. You're exactly right. You're describing the same situation. It's a big sloppy slush fund.
It is
for the political allies of the state Republicans, the churches, and these big businesses. And some of these folks, Jennifer had mentioned already, these three kings. So this investigation from the Indianapolis Star came out just earlier this week, and these three kings are some startup founders, or, well, they're former executives with the state, who were involved with the startup side of the IEDC. So these guys are former IEDC executive Dave Roberts. That's probably the one that Jennifer was referring to. But also the Purdue Research Foundation president, Chad Pittman, and a former economic development policy guru for Mitch Daniels by the name of Paul Mitchell, not the hair guy. So these guys were given this nickname, the Three Kings, from startup founders who said they believed the men's influence had the power to make or break some startups' chances to access state economic development contracts. Entities controlled in part by these three guys received more than $180 million over less than 6 years in taxpayer-funded grants and no-bid professional service contracts. Sometimes Roberts himself was involved in the IEDC's decision to dedicate millions of dollars worth of taxpayer dollars to the organizations. An analysis by the IndyStar found that more than $100 million worth of awards were doled out to those organizations, while Roberts played an instrumental role in choosing funding recipients at the IEDC. My favorite one is this. Perhaps the most obvious example of Roberts' overlapping roles was laid out in a 2022 request for more IEDC funding from the Battery Innovation Center, where federal nonprofit filings show Roberts was serving as board chair. The letter from Roberts' organization was addressed to Roberts in his capacity as the IEDC's chief innovation officer. Jennifer, if that isn't conflict of interest, I don't know what is.
I mean, everything is. I don't think that you can find any department anywhere in the state of Indiana that doesn't have some type of conflict of interest. It's just, I feel like conflict of interest is just not a thing anymore. It's just not even a concept in government, it seems, anymore. Even at the local level, I see that in my own community. And right now we're dealing with a lot of Republicans, but unfortunately it can go other ways as well. So
we just have to look at Indianapolis and Marion County to see that it is not an exclusively Republican technique. I mean, Democrats are equally capable of corruption, even though we don't have as much power in Indiana to engage in it.
Well, I do want to give a shout out to those folks in Indy, because they definitely inspired me to look a lot deeper at some things. And sometimes that's what it takes, is a group of people to really stand up and make a lot of noise.
Absolutely. I wish we had so much more time to cover all of these Indiana stories. But we're already coming up on an hour here, so I do need to transition to our national headlines. Although